Loki Season 2, Episode 5 is finally here for me specifically because about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I watched every episode, or the first 4 episodes of Loki Season 2, and then I had to wait all this time ago, and Episode 5 definitely delivered in the direction that I wanted this show to go, and it's starting to really finalize its footsteps. The one thing I'm going into the season finale, though, is a little bit, okay, this is one episode left. A little bit worried because there's a lot to still cover and a lot of things that I don't think they've moved the ground on within this season so far. But we definitely have a lot to talk about today. Definitely leave your thoughts down below. Again, this is a full spoiler review. We're going to dive into this episode and talk full spoilers. So if you haven't watched episode 5 yet, you are not safe. And I'm actually really curious to see how people feel on episode 5. And just in general, how people feel on Marvel, because there's been a lot of bomb drops this week. I'm still a fan of them. And just as a little bit of point of context, since it has been quite a while since we've talked about Loki, is, you know, the first season of Loki, I still go back to and think is like some of the best stuff that Marvel's done. It was one of the most surprising series because I honestly did not care for a Loki show whatsoever. Didn't think we needed one at all. And within the first season of Loki, it completely blew me away. I think there was only 1 week episode, and that was episode 3, which kind of now going back to, I had gained a little bit more appreciation, specifically in the development that it does between Loki and Sylvie. And I've been kind of hoping that season 2 is going to kind of give me more of that appreciation towards episode 1 and 2, which I found to be a little bit disappointing. And then 3 and 4 just really started to skyrocket the show back to what I really liked. And 5 started to give me definitely that appreciation towards at least episode 1. When it comes down to the whole time slipping, and when it was introduced in episode 1, how it kind of petered away and went away so fast, and then they brought it back in this episode, and the whole way that it really intersects to what it is. It's kind of like a new power that Loki is gaining. And throughout this episode, he's time slipping through all these different parts and different spaces of the multiverse to see where all of his quote-unquote friends, which they really much are his friends, should belong to. And, you know, we see the life of Mobius, we see the life of Sylvie, but she already knows what's going on. Hunter B-15, which I wish we got a little bit more of her in here. And, of course, Casey, and then Obi. I almost forgot about Ki-Ha Kwan, can't forget about him. And when he gets to Obi and he explains what's going on, Obi just completely understands. He gives him the TVA book, and it kind of leads him into creating his own temporal pad. But he says in their first interaction that you might be able to control this time-slipping thing, but you need to figure out how to. And I thought there were some fun interactions there. Definitely, like, when he tased him, and, like, Loki picked it up and, like, had that evil thought to tase Obi back, but decided not to. It's those little mannerisms that I think are brilliant in here, and specifically are brilliant for the character of Loki. But I think in time, when we look back at the entire MCU and the entire Marvel Studios saga, Loki is top 3 most developed characters in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think actually when you do look at the best developed characters through here, it's Rocket Raccoon, Loki, and I would probably either go Scarlet Witch or Iron Man at that point. And I think that says a lot specifically because of what we're able to develop in here and what Tom Hiddleston has done with this character on an emotional avenue, because, you know, there's just small little conversations that he has throughout here and what he comes to realize and his realization. And the thing that I actually really love about this, and I have no idea where the next episode is going per se, but part of me really is starting to feel that Loki is going to take control of the entire TVA by the very end of this and maybe become the new He Who Remains. As at the end of the first season, Sylvie ends up killing the He Who Remains, thinking this will solve all their problems, but in reality what it has done is only unleashed more of him along the world and destroyed the multiverse for what it is. So is it going to be Loki that contains the loom and contains all the multiverses to its same saga? We'll have to see next week, but that's my theory kind of going into this all. And, you know, this is called the Multiverse Saga. There's tons of different things going on, things that still are open-ended and open question. But with Kang being the main villain out there, these are all different things. And Victor Timely dying in the last episode, quote-unquote, it's fascinating to see, because I know I'm rambling and jumbling around to everything, but as I was watching this episode, I just couldn't get the realization that, in theory, how the TVA was recruited, Loki was, in a sense, recruiting people to come back to the TVA. And in a way is trying to breathe new life into it. understanding the purpose of what the TVA is. And as he gets everyone and convinces everyone to come back, thankfully, because Obi builds the device within 18 to 19 months, which only felt like a span of a couple seconds to Loki himself, they end up getting Casey, Hunter B-15, Mobius, and of course Obi and Loki all in the one room, and it laid it down to Sylvie. And when he shows up to Sylvie, she understands exactly what's going on. But what Sylvie didn't understand, and what she has been doing, is she's being selfish this entire season. And it goes back to one of the biggest characteristics of Loki, is that Loki has always been a very selfish character. And in a way, she calls him out at that at the bar. She calls him out at it and says, you're being selfish. Like, what is the reason that you're wanting to do this? And he says, and she goes, bullshit, say the next one. And he kept saying it until he says, I just want to be with my friends. I don't want to be alone again. And he fesses up to exactly what he wants. Where Sylvie just wants to live a life away from all of this. And we see her going and listening to the music and the radio and the record, and the song's a great choice, and the whole world starts getting destroyed, and she uses her temporal pad to find Loki. And then that whole world starts getting destroyed, turning into spaghetti, kind of like Mr. Fantastic from Doctor Strange, and even Ant-Man from Quantumania. And we get to all these different ideas, and by the end, Loki's able to control the time slip, which is what Obi proposed, giving him a new power of some sorts, like that he can, in a sense, time travel. So how far back is he going to go to fix the loom? Is he going to go back to before Sylvie killed He Who Remains? It's all mind-boggling. And just to say is that Justin and Aaron are fantastic at directing this. I really liked what they did with Moon Knight, and I'm really fascinated at what they've done with Loki in their directed episodes. Now the fact that they're going to be directing Daredevil, that's like all great stuff. This show is giving me exactly what I loved about the first season. And the only issue I still have with this season is I wish the season either had more episodes to flesh out the characters again, and to just in general move the story along. Where the first season had ended, I never really felt like they had gotten back to what they were trying to do. But in a way, I guess with the consequences of what they did in the first season have now interspliced and given them a bigger consequence to deal with in the season 2. And maybe I was just going into the season with different expectations, expecting more Kang, expecting more differences with that. But I got more of a more of a 3D dimensional season that centers in like very much just one central idea. And while they have traveled around, a lot of the season is taking place in the TVA and feels more like a workplace drama than anything else. But in the end of the day, it continues to develop our main character, Loki. It continues to develop this entire society and what is going on. And I think that's, in a way, this season has been more of a character study, diving deeper into Loki than it was the multiverse itself, which is something that I think a lot of people could be disappointed in. Again, I still like the first season a tad bit more. But I think when it's all said and done, and again, I haven't seen next week's episode, that's one episode that we're all going to tune into, I don't feel as alone within it. So I'm very curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this episode. Definitely leave your thoughts down below. Hit that like and subscribe button for more, because we definitely will be covering the Loki finale. I also will be seeing the Captain Marvel 2 next week early as well, so I'll have an early review for that, as well as an MCU ranking with the movies and shows next week. So lots of MCU content, and if you're also just a fan of independent movies and other things that are smaller than the blockbusters, I'm also covering that all over here. So thank you so much again for watching this. There's a lot that happened in this episode, a lot of mind-boggling things that I'll definitely have to tune into once again to rewatch this episode to understand everything. But leave your thoughts down below, and of course, until next time, stay classy.